sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Phew, it's been a pretty wild couple weeks for aviation news, right?
Yeah, it has been.
First, we had that mid-air collision over D.C.
Right.
And then the medical jet went down in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
And now this Delta plane ending up on its roof in Toronto.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it makes you think a little bit.
It does. It makes you kind of wonder what's going on up there.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. For sure. So I think we need to take a deep dive today into exactly what happened with Delta Flight 4819 on February 17th.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got this great article here from CBS Minnesota. It was published that same day. So I think we can really get into the nitty-gritty here.
I mean, this...
A crazy one, even just from the visuals, right?
It is.
I mean, a plane flipping upside down on landing.
Yeah.
It sounds like something straight out of a movie.
Yeah, it really does. But thankfully, everyone survived.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah, which is the most important thing.
Absolutely. But it's not just luck, right? I mean, like, how are these planes engineered to be so survivable?
Yeah. So when they designed these aircraft, the wings are actually designed to flex and absorb impact.
Okay.
And even break away in certain ways to actually protect the main cabin where the passengers are.
Wow.
And the fuselage itself, the main body of the plane, has to meet incredibly strict strength standards.
Okay, so even a rollover like this, they're built for that.
They are.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Still, though, 18 people were hospitalized, and a child is in critical condition.
Yeah, that's right.
That's serious stuff.
It is. And, it's easy to get caught up in all the technical aspect of it, but we can't forget about the human impact these events have.
Right.
Lives are disrupted.
Yeah.
People are injured.
Of course.
And there's a lot of trauma to deal with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this flight originated in Minneapolis, my neck of the woods, and was heading to Toronto when things went wrong at 1:1 p.m. Central Time.
Okay.
And get this, Delta canceled all their remaining flights to and from Pearson Airport that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bold move, logistically speaking.
For sure.
I mean, it must have been a nightmare for their operations team.
Right.
But it really signals just how seriously they're taking this.
Yeah.
They're prioritizing safety and a thorough investigation over keeping things running smoothly.
Right.
It's easy to get frustrated with travel disruptions when it happens to you, but it really shows a commitment to figuring out what happened and making sure it doesn't happen again.
Right. I can't help but think about the weather in Toronto that day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, blowing snow, visibility down to 6 miles.
Yeah.
Wind gusts up to 37 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's bad.
I mean, it just sounds treacherous for landing a plane.
Yeah, weather is a huge factor in aviation.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. And those conditions that you described would definitely challenge even the most experienced pilot.
Right.
I mean, we can't say for sure until the investigation is complete.
Yeah.
But the weather is definitely a piece of the puzzle here.
Absolutely. So speaking of these investigations, we've got the Transportation Safety Board of Canada leading the charge here.
Okay.
But the NTSB and the FAA are involved as well?
That's right. Yeah, they are. Because it involves a U.S.-based airline.
Right.
The FAA, which oversees regulations and safety standards for all U.S. airlines. They're going to jump in on this as well.
Okay.
And the TSB in Canada, they're kind of Canada's equivalent of our NPSB here in the States.
Gotcha.
And they focus on independent investigation of these accidents.
So we're going to get a perspective from both sides of the border.
Exactly.
That's great. So that's reassuring to know that it's not just one group calling all the shots.
Right.
One detail that stood out to me in this article was that this flight wasn't actually flown by Delta.
Yeah.
It was flown by Endeavour Air.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
So Endeavour Air is a wholly owned subsidiary of Delta Airlines.
Okay.
And in fact, they're headquartered right there in Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
So there's a local connection for you.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Subsidiary airlines are pretty common in the industry.
Okay.
Basically, they operate flights under the banner of a larger carrier.
Okay. So it's like a team within a team situation.
Yeah, you could say that.
Does that mean that safety standards could be different?
That's a good question. And it's one that passengers often have.
Right.
But the good news is that the safety regulations and the oversight for the FAA are just as strict for subsidiaries as they are for the major airlines.
Okay.
So Endeavour Air in particular, they've got a pretty solid safety record.
Oh, good.
They're held to the same standards as any other U.S. airline.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So
you can rest assured that when you're flying on a subsidiary, you're still getting the same level of safety.
Okay, good. good. That's good to know.
As you would on the main airline itself.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue to dive into this.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've got this Endeavour Air situation.
Right.
But on top of that, we've had the D.C. collision and the Philadelphia crash recently.
Right.
So it feels like we're seeing a lot of these incidents pretty close together.
Yeah, it's definitely been unusual to see this many high-profile incidents in such a short time frame.
Right.
But it's important to remember that correlation doesn't equal causation.
Sure.
Just because these events happen close together doesn't mean that there's some single underlying cause connecting them.
Right. It does make you think, though, especially with this Delta incident happening in such rough weather.
Yeah.
We're hearing more and more about extreme weather events these days.
Right.
Is that something that the aviation industry is worried about?
It's definitely on their radar. Climate change is leading to more frequent and intense weather events globally.
Yeah.
And that has implications for aviation: stronger winds, heavier precipitation, reduced visibility.
Yeah.
These all increase the challenges and risks of flying.
So what can they actually do about it? I mean, it's not like they can control the weather.
Yeah, of course not. But they can adapt and prepare.
Okay.
For starters, there's been a big push for more sophisticated weather forecasting technology.
Right.
This allows pilots to get much more detailed and accurate information about conditions along their route.
Right.
So they can make better decisions about whether to delay, reroute, or even cancel flights.
Okay. So that's pretty high tech.
It is.
Is there anything else that they're doing on the technology front?
Another big area of investment is in more fuel-efficient aircraft.
Okay.
Not only does this reduce cost and emissions, but newer planes often have better performance capabilities in challenging weather conditions.
Right.
So it's kind of like upgrading from an old clunker to a state-of-the-art vehicle.
Yeah.
You're just going to have a smoother, safer ride in tough conditions.
Right. Okay, so new tech helps.
Right.
But what about pilot training?
Yeah.
I mean, surely that plays a huge role in handling these trickier situations.
Absolutely. Pilot training is constantly evolving to address new challenges.
Right.
There's a greater emphasis on decision-making in adverse weather.
Okay.
Using simulators to practice, handling extreme scenarios, and even incorporating data from past incidents to improve protocols.
Okay.
The goal is to equip pilots with the skills and knowledge to anticipate and mitigate risks as much as possible.
Right. It sounds like they're really trying to stay ahead of the curve.
They are.
But let's circle back to Delta Flight 4819 for a second.
Okay.
Knowing what we know now, what are the key takeaways for passengers? What should we be thinking about the next time we fly?
Well, first and foremost, it's important to remember that even dramatic-sounding incidents like this one often have high survival rates.
Okay.
Aircraft design and safety procedures are incredibly robust.
Okay.
And the vast majority of incidents result in no fatalities.
Okay. That is reassuring, especially when you see images of a plane flipped over.
Yeah, it can be scary, but the planes are designed to withstand a lot.
Right. You mentioned weather being a big factor. Does that mean we should be worried about flying in anything but perfect conditions?
Not necessarily. Pilots are highly trained professionals who make decisions based on a complex set of factors,
right,
including weather data, aircraft performance, and their own experience.
Right.
They're not like taking unnecessary risks, but it's always a good idea to be aware of the weather conditions yourself.
Sure.
Just to have some context.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
Anything else we should keep in mind?
Well, it's also helpful to remember that incidents like this are investigated thoroughly by multiple agencies.
Yeah.
And those investigations lead to improvements in safety procedures, training, and even aircraft design.
Right.
The industry is constantly learning and evolving to make flying even safer.
So it's not just about reacting to what happened,
right,
but proactively using that knowledge to prevent future problems.
Exactly.
That's good to hear.
Aviation is a complex system with a lot of moving parts,
right,
but there's a tremendous commitment to safety at every level.
It's interesting how this one incident in Toronto has really opened up a whole discussion about the future of aviation.
Yeah, it has.
We've talked about weather technology, pilot training.
Uh-huh.
It all connects.
It really does. And it highlights the fact that aviation is always evolving, adapting to new challenges.
Yeah.
And striving for that balance between efficiency, innovation, and safety.
All right, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a moment to digest everything we've learned so far. When we come back, we'll wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts and questions to ponder.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the specifics of Delta Flight 4819 and those crazy weather conditions to the bigger picture of climate change and the future of aviation. It's been quite the deep dive.
It has been. And you know, what strikes me most is just how this one incident reveals the incredible complexity of air travel.
Right.
I mean, We tend to think of it as routine. Just hop on a plane, get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But there was so much going on behind the scenes to make that happen safely and efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to take for granted all the technology, the training, the coordination involved.
It really is.
We were talking about new planes being more fuel efficient.
Right.
Are there other advances that passengers might notice?
Oh, absolutely. For one, in-flight entertainment systems are light years ahead of what they used to be.
Yeah.
We're talking high-speed Wi-Fi, personalized entertainment libraries, even real-time flight tracking.
Wow.
And on the safety side, newer aircraft often have enhanced navigation systems, more advanced autopilot features, and even things like turbulence detection to help pilots avoid those bumpy rides.
So smoother flights, better entertainment.
Right.
It sounds like flying is only getting more comfortable.
I think so.
But we can't forget that feeling of unease that many folks are having after this string of incidents.
Yeah.
How do we balance that awareness of risks with the understanding that flying is statistically very safe?
It's a valid concern, and I think it's all about perspective. Yes, there are risks associated with flying, just like any form of transportation.
Yeah.
But it's crucial to look at the data objectively.
Right.
Statistically speaking, flying remains one of the safest ways to travel.
Okay.
The systems in place, the training, the constant analysis of incidents, it all adds up to a remarkable safety record.
It's kind of like when you hear about a shark attack.
Right.
It makes headlines. Everyone gets nervous about going in the ocean.
Right.
But statistically, you're far more likely to be injured driving to the beach than you are by getting bitten by a shark.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's about not letting fear or isolated incidents overshadow the bigger picture.
Right.
And remember, every incident, even minor ones, are thoroughly investigated.
Yeah.
And that data is used to refine safety protocols, update pilot training, even make changes to aircraft design, if necessary.
Right.
The industry is always learning and improving.
So it's not just about reacting to problems, but proactively trying to prevent them from happening in the first place.
Exactly. And this is where passengers have a role to play as well.
Okay.
Staying informed about safety procedures, following crew instructions, even reporting anything that seems unusual.
Yeah.
It all contributes to a safer flying environment.
That makes sense. We're all part of this system.
We are.
And everyone has a responsibility. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Delta Flight 489 and what it tells us about aviation, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I'd say this. The next time you're on a plane, take a moment to appreciate the incredible human ingenuity and collaboration that makes flight possible.
Right.
Acknowledge the risks, but also trust in the systems and the dedicated people who work tirelessly to ensure your safety. And most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Beautiful put. I think that's a perfect note to end on. We'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. As climate change brings more extreme weather, what further steps can the aviation industry take to ensure the safety and sustainability of air travel in the years to come? That's something for all of us to consider as we move forward. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll.